Marino Show. Hey everybody, welcome to the Marino Show. I'm your host, David Marino. Today I'm talking with professional stuntman and actor, Preston Corbell. He has been in a number of different shows, including Eastbound and Down, Blue Mountain State, One Tree Hill, The Vampire Diaries. He has about 100 credits to his name. He's been in the industry since he was a teenager for over 20 years now. And I'm just so excited to have you with me today, Preston. Thank you for being with me.
Oh, thank you for having me. I've checked out some episodes and I'm super excited to be here.
Oh, well, thank you. You know, I was looking through your IMDb and just reading about you. And, you know, stuntmen have and women have a very dangerous job, but a very important job, because a lot of what we love about film and television are those action scenes, or it's, you know, the climactic part of the show. For you, what was it about that attracted you to the business in terms of being a stunt person? I know originally, did you start as an actor? How did you get into the industry in the first place?
So I started I just did like print modeling, just little things, little bit acting roles. I dated someone who was in a big show, and she got me an invite into a really cool horror movie called Cabin Fever. And I was able to do some cool stunts there and turn into Bunny Man, which 20 years later is still such an iconic character. But just kind of started in stunts, and kind of you build connections, and that led into One Tree Hill and Eastbound and Down and Vampire Diaries. But I think the core of a stuntman is you want to be humble, because you're not the actor there, but you kind of leave that your heart as a stamp on the film. So you kind of leave a piece of you with all these stunts that you do, and it's just for the dedication of film.
When it comes to being in that part of the industry, what kind of training did you have, or did you even have any? Was it just something that you just started doing? Because as I mentioned, it's dangerous. So there has to be a certain amount of, well, a lot of amount of skill that you have to do this. So how did you approach that part of it? And, you know, had you thought about doing something like this since you were a kid when it came to, you know, stunts?
I'm a product of Jackass, so definitely watching those shows want you to do some fun stuff. But I think my thing is I got recruited to D1 basketball at San Diego State, ruptured my Achilles, had to like completely figure out something else to do because basketball is not going to be it. Later on, did One Tree Hill, which is centered around basketball. Got to do a lot of cool stunts and go to high school all over again. But I think with any stuntman, you really want to be good at one thing. I mean, we're competing with ex-athletes and ex-Olympians even that are trying to get into stunt work. So it's definitely elite of the elite trying to get into Hollywood doing stunt work. So we'll be really good at one thing. My thing was basketball. Whether it's martial arts or you're really good at race car driving or anything, you just have to have that one thing to get the foot in the door, I guess. But I mean, I don't know. I just love Jackass, and I figured I had the opportunity. I'm going to go for it. In 20 years, I sit here. So.
Which is amazing. And I know that you take part in a number of conventions, you know, still doing what you do. One of the things that I thought was really cool that I ran across on social media is you talked about the 5 things that a stuntman needs to know. Can you touch on some of that? Because I think it's interesting that, you know, myself not having any really knowledge of how all of that works, there are things that I didn't even know that you were talking about that you just don't think of when you're watching a film or you're watching television. And all of the things that go into it, obviously there's a lot of physicality, but there's also a lot of mental preparation for this as well.
I think a big part of it is you got to be humble as a stuntman, because we're the guts and the actors the glory. So we are the people that go out there and do the work and get the injuries, and but it's the huge part of the film that we don't get recognition for. So we have to stay humble in that, but we have to just put our bodies on the line. You can't have any fear going into stunts, and you have the best people around you. So you have to remind yourself that you are as safe as possible. My biggest thing is adapting the roles. When you're a stuntman, you want to, whether you're doubling a big character or you're doing utility stunts, you want to adapt to those different stunts, especially doing like a TV show like One Tree Hill. I mean, one day I can get hit by a car, next I can jump off a bridge, get set on fire. All that can happen in 2 weeks. So you got to be really prepared to do anything. I think the biggest adaptability I had as a stuntman is I played a character called Luke, or I was a double for a character called Lucas Scott on One Tree Hill. And then we shot that one in the fall and the winter. And then spring and summer, we did Eastbound and Down. It's Kenny Powers. Kenny Powers is about 230. Lucas Scott's about 170. And I had to fluctuate that weight for a few seasons within the same year. So that's where the mental comes in. That's where you have to be you have to be dedicated to the role, but you have to mentally know, you have to turn it on and go, I have to hit this weight. If I don't hit this weight, I don't have a job. So you have to mentally know exactly where you are as a stuntman, but you have to know what's healthy for you, and you have to keep a conscious awareness of what's healthy for you and mental health. So mental health is a huge aspect of overcoming injuries or just dealing with adversity in this field.
Have you ever thought of, maybe writing a book to share some of these experiences? Because I think just the breadth of your work would be very helpful for somebody else in the industry, either starting out or even somebody who's well into their career. Is that something that you've thought about doing, or even, going around and sort of educating people about this?
So, I mean, I do have great opportunities to do panels at conventions and stuff, and that's always great to reach out and talk to people one-on-one. I think my contribution to my knowledge and further my education, as I did later in my life, is give back with sports psychology, and I can work with I'm a sports psychologist, so I can work with professional athletes and have that viewpoint of, I was a professional athlete. I know how you feel as a professional athlete, and what's the psychology behind that? Where's the mental health? So it's a nice transition for me, because I can't be a stuntman anymore because I couldn't stop getting injured and, barely walking, quitting that. But then going into another field like psychology and mental health, it's that natural transition. But just give back to other athletes, understand their mind. So instead of writing a book, I guess that's kind of my contribution to that.
That's awesome, though, that you're doing sports psychology. I'd read that about you as well. And what's really cool is that you're based here in Austin, Texas. So you grew up in California, right? And
Newport Beach, yeah.
So how did your path end up here in Austin, from doing all the stunt work and the films and television to now being in sports psychology? How did that come to be?
So I did. I grew up in Orange County, Newport Beach, went to high school there, went to some college there, and then had the opportunity to film Cabin Fever in North Carolina. Met the stunt coordinator, met some cool people who film a lot of shows in Wilmington, North Carolina. And I was in Wilmington, North Carolina for 10 years, which was Eastbound and Down, and One Tree Hill, and just a slew of stuff that they call it Hollywood East over there. So I got to do a lot of cool stuff and work in North Carolina, which is very unique in the film industry, because it's not LA. There's no paparazzi. It's kind of a tight-knit group. Just a great environment. Got to work in Georgia. People went down there for Walking Dead, stuff of that nature, and did Marvel and DC up in New York. But my education comes in where everyone's living the lifestyle, everyone's having fun. I'm sitting in a trailer doing online school. So I got my bachelor's degree early on, and then I continued school online. So when I was done, because I knew stunts isn't going to last forever, your body's not going to always hold up. So, but when I was done, I had that education and I have this knowledge, so it kind of all worked together.
And also, I think it's also important that, you talk about, you can't be a stunt man or stunt woman forever, that you kind of do have to think of, well, what comes after this, just like athletes do, because there's a shelf life. So, for you, is this also as exciting, now going in this different direction, outside of stunt work, but being able now to work with others?
Mental health has always been a passion of mine. Understanding myself, as I think a lot of people in psychology go into psychology to try to understand their own mind. But helping others is so beneficial to me, and just makes me feel good as a person. But also having that ex-athlete mentality. And I mean, we look at LeBron James, who's 39 now, and everyone's going, "Oh my God, look how great he's playing! He's playing so great at 39. He's 40." And in real life, like, I just turned 40. That's not that old. But in LeBron James' life, he's a grandpa with a cane. So, but when you're an athlete and you're forced into retirement, and you don't always get that retirement party, You just kind of, no one picks you up anymore. No teams want you. And you had a football in your hand since you were 3 years old. And now all of a sudden your life is gone. You have to make this transition. You have to understand, you have to be involved in a lot of things that normal public's not. And I had that transition of, you going to this work that you've done for 20 years. Now you go into this other thing. What's that transition's like? And, how do you go about that? And I think sports psychology is so unique because it focuses on athletes. I think athletes just struggle so much with different aspects, not more or less than the public, but different aspects. And I think sports psychology as a focus needs to be there because it understands a population that's not always explored or understood.
When you think back over your career, I know you probably have several projects that you're very proud of, but is there something that comes to mind that really stands out to you in your work that's always stayed with you, or something that you're particularly proud of? And like I said, there's like 100 projects you've been associated with. Is there something that you always think back on and think, yeah, that was really cool that I was involved in that, able to take part in that?
There was a project I did in 2006. A lot of people won't know it because it was so long ago, but it was on NBC. It was called Surface. And at the time of the show, it was the most expensive show on television. It lasted a year. It had good ratings, and they just couldn't afford to keep it going. But I was in that process, similar to Eastbound and Down, where at the very beginning, before any cameras, any actors, you're just doing test shots and you're doing location scouting and all that stuff. And I was there from day one through all the way, every single day. At the end of that series, I think we did like 12 episodes. So I think just being from the beginning process to the end and knowing exactly what all goes into film, not just like your department of stunts or whatever, or your department of acting, just knowing everything and all the work and dedication that every piece, every crew member puts into this, really stands out in my career. I know that's not a great show to just throw out there because a lot of people don't know it, but being a part of a big production from day one to the end and seeing all the hard work was a huge, huge accomplishment for me in my career.
Yeah, and also just you mentioning that you're one part of a puzzle,
Yeah.
that everybody's working on. And I would imagine, as somebody in stunt, like, with acting, I feel like that's all, it's all on them all the time. But when you're in other aspects of it, it feels like you would be able to kind of see how it all works together. For you, did you have any specific directors that you loved working with, actors that stand out to you, or just people that you met even on the crew that you're still friends with today that have sort of helped you in your career when you were in that and even up to now?
Obviously, Eli Roth, seeing him at the beginning and what he's turned into as such an iconic horror director was really awesome to be a part of. I think the biggest actor that I worked with that left the biggest impression to me, and I worked with 2 projects, was Ben Stiller. I worked with him on a project in Mexico, and then later worked with him on a project we filmed in North Carolina. And he remembered a conversation we had 2 years prior to that, and he continued it 2 years later in North Carolina. So I thought just of all the people he meets, of all the people he interacts with, and he remembered a specific conversation that probably didn't mean that much to him, but it meant a lot to me. And just for him to acknowledge that and to have that connection and just be so genuine as a person, kind of I don't know, it just kind of makes you feel good as a film person that there are some good people out there, especially bigger actors. But I got to meet a lot of cool people. I think Eastbound and Down had Will Ferrell on set. We had Danny McBride, we had Brooke Shields, and then I worked with Schwarzenegger and Stallone. So lots of fun people to remember and had fun conversations with.
Yeah, and just talking about your career, what was there ever a moment, I know that you've acted as well, but was there ever a moment that you really wanted to be more in front of the camera, or did you really just enjoy the stunts more than the acting aspect of it?
I'm a crew member at heart, whether it's doing stunt work, done stand-in work, photo double work, because you don't get to do a stunt every day, so you have to make a living, and other aspects of crew help you do that. But I'm a crew member at heart. I'm Team 2 or the B team. But acting's fun, and I always had the ability to just be plugged in. And if you need someone to have a couple lines, I can do that really quickly, and I had no problem with that. But crew members, my heart, it's the heart of the film. It's how the film gets made. So.
If there is somebody that is thinking about getting into stunt work, what would your advice be to them? Because you have a lot of experience and you have a lot of, knowledge, and you know what happens on a day-to-day basis.
Going into stunt work, it's tough. I mean, you're like I was saying earlier, you're dealing with a lot of. I mean, stunt work's very elite. Athletes go into that. I mean, it's ex-Olympians, it's ex-football players, ex-basketball players. Maybe not basketball because they're 7 feet tall, but it's a lot of ex-really professional athletes going into it. So your competition level is really high. So it's tough. It's just like any other professional sport. It's tough to get in and stay consistent and have a career at it. Like I was saying earlier, be really good at one thing. That one thing can get you in the door. And then when you get in the door, you can make your connections and you can do a good job and, just build your resume. But the biggest thing I tell anyone who's getting in the film is start making your own films. Even if you're getting into stunt work, start directing and editing and writing. Start learning all aspects of film, because that's only going to benefit you when you do get when you get a job on set and be stunt. You're going to know how all this other stuff works. And you're going to be a lot more integrated into that set, and you're going to leave a good impression on the director. So if the work's not there for you, create the work yourself, and do your own stuff, and just get to know film as a process.
I know you're focusing now on sports psychology, but Austin is a big film town, as is the surrounding areas. We were talking before we started the interview. Bastrop is one of those areas as well. They're going to be building a movie studio in San Marcos, which is nearby. Have you ever thought of, or do you still dabble, maybe not necessarily in stunt work, but in film? Or do you see yourself doing that or continuing to try to do that in the future?
I'm done for now. I've been done for a couple years. Like I do conventions every once in a while just because they're fun to me. I enjoy meeting people. So I just do that just for a hobby. But the thing that would get me back is like a Jason type character, just kind of that quiet horror character that's kind of the centerpiece of the movie. I'd love to play that. But other than that, I don't see myself getting back into it.
Yeah, I love horror, as you can tell behind me.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. Like, I've always thought it would be so fun to play like
like a Kane Hodder, you know?
Yeah, and they're iconic when you think of, because they are stunt people. When you think of that, they're stars in their own right, especially if you get like a Jason or Art the Clown or whatever the case may be, what other aspirations do you have, in your career?
I think as far as film, I love to keep my mind busy. I love to keep my mind. I mean, film's always going to be a huge passion of mine. It's always going to be a big part of my life, and I love doing interviews like this. I love just meeting people and talking to people, sharing my experiences and bouncing off and interacting. As far as a profession, as what I'm doing moving forward, as a professional would be, doing psychology and doing clinical work with just general therapy with everyday people, and doing sports psychology on the side. Unfortunately, sports psychology right now, anyway, at least in this area, you can't really do full time, or there's you only have like one sports psychology on like UT, or you have a few. So the spots aren't really there, but you can do that on the side. So for me, it's just building my resume as a psychologist, and I'm just trying to reach out to as many athletes as I can.
Talking about some of the other projects that you've done, kind of going back to that list, I was looking at your IMDb list, and it's just continuous. And you also did some work with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right? And DC Comics. Can you expand on that and talk about some of that?
So I guess most of my work is what we call practical stunts, which is your Jason, your Kane Hodder. You're getting hit by a car. There's not really a lot of green screen. There's not a lot of wire work. And I had never really experienced that. So I decided to get my butt up in New York and do some DC and Marvel stuff to kind of end my career, to kind of do that one thing I haven't really done before. And just that process, man, those people are so professional and so good at what they do. And I think wire work and green screen work, a lot of CGI stuff, it's such an art form that they're really good at what they do is pretty much what I'm trying to say. And not everyone can just go off the street and learn that. And I didn't know that, and it's really cool to see that aspect of it. I got to do some motion capture with Grand Theft Auto many years ago, and that's again something that people, if you know motion capture, it's you're really good at it if you're good at it, and if you need that experience to kind of inch your way into that profession. But I think Marvel and DC was it's something that's so big in this world. It's those movies always do make a killing. I'm personally not a huge fan of them, but I wanted to be a part of that environment before I retired.
Is there a stunt that you can think of that you were actually sort of nervous about doing, or one of the most elaborate that you were involved in that you can think back on?
I think a lot of when you're doing bigger stunts, like I don't think like jumping off a building because you learn how to jump, you learn how to roll, you learn how to land. I think like the first time you do fire, that's kind of crazy, and then after you do it a few times, it's a process, and you're real meticulous of exactly what you got to do, and you get it over with. And I think that's with a lot of stunts. So once you do something that's commonplace, like getting hit by a car or getting set on fire, or a lot of car stunts. Once you do the initial stunt, then the fear kind of goes out of the window, and you kind of get into the meticulous. I need to do this I need to meet every point so I don't get injured. If we get injured, we don't work. So I think, I mean, you can't go in with fear. I try not to go to any stunt with fear because I have the best people around me. That if something goes wrong, those are the best people that you can have around you for safety wise. So there's not really a stunt where I was terrified to go into it.
Is there one that you enjoyed the most?
I think anything like getting hit by a car, anything where you have that millisecond of you have to roll at the exact time. You're depending on other people driving the car, the speed of the car. You're depending on a lot of different aspects to go right. So once you continuously do that and you do multiple stunts very similar to that, it's almost mathematical. It's almost like, okay, I have to do this at a very certain point, and I have to hit this, and if you don't, it could be catastrophic. So, I mean, stunts like that are really just cool, but it brings in the whole, we're not adrenaline junkies. I think a lot of people think stuntmen are just crazy adrenaline junkies, and we try to be really calm, and we try to be just really good at what we do because we don't want to get injured.
Right. And you're right. I think a lot of people from the outside would think, oh, you crave that sort of adventure, or it's kind of like you're addicted to that. But as you're saying, and even just reading about you in general, the mental health aspect of it is huge.
Right.
For you, what were some of the things that you wished you had when you were in the industry that you're trying to provide to people now? Or did you have anybody that was there to sort of help with the mental health aspect of it?
I think the athlete part of the mindset of the athlete isn't always there. I think when you're doing stunts and you're a stuntman, you deal with a lot of injuries. And that's so taxing on your mental health. And you don't really think about that because you think, okay, injury, pain, physical pain, you can suck it up or something. But when you're constantly injured, and then your back always hurts, and then you got this other leg injury, and then now I got this thumb injury, and you have to get out of bed every day. You have to work every day. You have to have a good attitude, and you have to fall again and again, even though you're already injured. And that really can play a mental toll on you. So I wish I had, sports psychology back then, 20 years ago. It wasn't as prevalent as now. We have some cool people like Kevin Love came out in the NBA with mental health, and probably about 5-10 years ago. So a lot of that stuff's really just coming out. A lot of athletes are speaking out about it, and that's what's really cool. But it wasn't always a thing when I was growing up in stunts. So I wish that mental health from the aspect of an athlete was more available to me. I didn't have that.
And, as you said, I think that conversation around mental health in a number of capacities is now something that you see more, you hear more, whether it's in the workplace or, as for you, that isn't something that I think a lot of us think about. Yeah, you're getting injured every day, yet your body is your income. So that would mess with, that could start messing with your mind a little bit. And it isn't something that I think a lot of us automatically think of when you think of that kind of work.
Correct. I think, and another, just to touch on just another mental health issue is going from that fluctuation of 70 pounds in between seasons and doing it multiple seasons at a time. When a lot of us lose weight, we go through this process of, well, we got to eat a little less, we have to exercise a little more, we don't have these restrictions. Now, when you have to lose that weight and you got 3 months to lose it, you just turn everything off in your head and you weigh food and you do exactly what you need to do, because that's how you make a living. And it's a different way to look at it, because in everyday life, if we're losing 70 pounds, it could be 2 years, and it's a trial and error process. I got 3 months, and if I don't do it, I don't get fed, or by fed, I mean, I don't get to make money. So it's that mindset of there's no fooling around. This isn't fun anymore. You have to do this to survive.
You said you're not really interested in getting back into that industry, but do you have friends that are still doing it, that are still very much a part of it?
I do, and I have a lot of stunt friends, and I have a lot of actor friends that I've known for a couple decades now, or at least a decade, some of them. But yeah, still keep in contact, still communicate, still see them sometimes at conventions and stuff. So that family's always going to be there. There's people that you always make connections with, that you're always going to share that time, that period of your life, that you were a part of this project, and then you were part of their lives. So you met them in film, but you start to be a part of their life outside of film, and that kind of relationship lasts forever.
What's it been like on the convention circuit? Because I did see you do a lot of those. Is that something that you're going to continue to do in the future?
I've done a lot recently. I got to work with CJ Graham, Jason, and
part 6, right?
Yeah, Jason lives, I think. Danielle Harris, so who's a classic Halloween actress. But yeah, I mean, I get to work with a lot of cool people like that, and that's awesome, and that's cool. You get to hang around them and see their perspective, and they've been around it for a long time. So I've done a lot lately. I do it as a hobby. So when it stops getting fun, I'll stop doing it. And when I want to do it, I'll do it. So there's nothing really, keeping me on there. I just do it for fun.
If people want to find information about you, or they want to follow you, or they want to learn more about like what you're doing now in sports psychology, where can they find you? Where can they follow you? And is there a way they could get in touch with you if they were interested in the sports psychology aspect of what you do?
Instagram, so it's stunt.beast, and I try to just have a community over there. So a lot of people comment, and I always comment back. A lot of people DM, I always DM back, but it's just really positive, and everyone has that same vibe. So come check that out, and I try to post like movie stuff, fitness stuff, and some psychology stuff every once in a while, but just a fun environment that's always positive.